Tinashe is an R&B singer who's been part of the game for quite some time now. Around 2014, she started to break big with some singles. It was a very like watery, aquarium kind of sounding vibe that she had going on, which is probably why the album was, you know, what it was called. I've certainly had many gripes with the direction that modern R&B has taken. I've even tweeted about it before. I think I've talked about it multiple times in my reviews. There's just something so lacking with a lot of modern R&B artists, particularly the mainstream. They often go for a more chilled out, vibey kind of aesthetic, and the vocals are often pretty much washed out and just very laid back. There just feels like very little in the way of like a pulse to a lot of artists, but it became pretty popular across the decade. I think artists such as Party Next Door were best examples of that, where they just didn't really have any emotional personality to their voice, and yet they just seemed to become super mainstream. And yet artists like Tinashe, I think you say Tinashe, is more expressive with her voice. I wouldn't say she's the most standout vocalist in the world, but I think she has character. She has a playfulness. She has a bit of sass to her that I think is really which is really nice. I think she can sell a catchy tune as well. So I actually think she's one of the better names in modern R&B, honestly. It feels like it's been a bit of a while since she had a massive single though. Those singles were more in the 2014 days where she really broke big, but it doesn't seem like she's hitting the charts as much anymore, which of course someone that is actually worth worth sticking around, worth keeping around, ends up being the one that just kind of fizzles. How ironic. And I think this album here is no exception to that rule either. I think there are some really good tracks on this, and I think the whole thing runs incredibly well. I think the production here is very, very slick. It bounces around from the slower, really, you know, chilled out moments that I was talking about before, but there's also some really, you know, peppy moments that break through and just stand out in great ways. I Can See the Future is pretty typical for your standard R&B stuff, but I feel like the album does start to fall into its identity once you get past this point. I think the lyrics are pretty standard, you know, talking about seeing the future as seeing you and that person being together. You've heard it before, of course, but once you get to X, is that a fucking bird? Once you get to X, man, the Beyonce-esque isms really start to come through, particularly Beyonce from the Destiny's Child days. Yeah, this is straight up mid-2000s R&B jamming stuff. Shy Guy is a moment in the early stages of the album that actually leads to some potential that I think really should have been utilized. It's a very short track, but what she does on this one is she kind of like takes this drum and bass approach in a similar way to someone like Rochelle Jordan, or the way that, you know, Machine Drum does with his music, and he brings on vocalists that really work with that sound. You get it with Disclosure as well. There's something really entertaining about that short burst that the track offers, and yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere, but I feel like I wanted to see more of that. Really felt like there was potential with that. Honestly, if Tinashe, you are watching, you aren't watching, but if you are, just consider maybe trying more tracks like that. Honestly, get in contact with Machine Drum. I think you two could, yeah, you could gel. You've got tracks like Undo, which are the pop bangers of the album. If there's anything that's going to become the mainstream hit, it could be this. Reminds me of like some Doja Cat type stuff, you know, over some Max Martin production. It's almost like something The Weeknd would sing over, but it's been given to Tinashe. Really classy little dance driven beats. Feels a bit retro in some places, but also feels very modern. Last Call, which take us back to the more 90s R&B days with the luscious instrumental here, very soulful. Her voice works really well with this, actually. I like that, you know, when she slows things down, she still has a really nice vocal approach to listen to. Pasadena brings a more jiggy, peppy stuff back, similar to Undo. This one's just a really throttling little, you know, track that's driven by the beat, and again, it's done really well. I mean, it's catchy, it's memorable, and Tinashe again is just really selling these tracks. She can sell both sides of these genres. I can't leave off though without mentioning Bladee Bouncin, which is like the sexiest jam potentially of the year. This has that kind of potential, man. Ooh. It's up there with Dysfunctional by Van Jess and Kate Renata as being like one of the best R&B moments of the year. This track is what it says. It's bouncing, it's sexy, it's groovy. Get this one on your naughty playlist, your kinky naughty playlists, fellas and girls. Get it on there. She really sells the swag on this one. It oozes charisma, but it's also very easy going and chill, which is what I like about it as well. Yeah, great track this one, and a really good album. Like, yeah, this just feels like what I want all R&B albums to be like, really. The only minor thing I'd say is that I don't really feel like lyrically every track offers a very interesting thing, but sonically I think this album is totally up there. She's not exactly providing the most unique interpretations of things on every track, but I don't know, you know, I think a lot of listeners could see past that and just be absolutely fine. But aside from a few tracks just sounding a bit standard for the R&B genre, I think the best moments of this album really shine and make it what it is. But I think a 7 out of 10 is totally fair from me. I think, you know, some of those weaker moments are totally outshone by the best moments on the album, and I think that's enough to make this absolutely worth your time. So yeah, definitely let me know your thoughts on this album. If you have heard it, would love to see what you guys think. If you haven't heard it, do check it out and let me know. Have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. If there are any other R&B albums in this vein that have come out this year that you think I should be checking out, then please send them my way. Have a good day and goodbye.